Kiki Ma, Masters of Horror, a Cult Film Showdown side project is back. And we are watching a series called Masters of Horror that ran in 2005 and 2000 to 2007 and featured some of the greatest names in horror that were kicking around at the time. I am your host, Jim Cotta, and I am joined by the fabulous Nick Boxer.
Greetings. In attendance.
And he's a busy man, but he's making time. It's juggling Jack Hall.
Juggling Jack Hall. I like that. Hold on. I have to cough. Let me hit the cough button.
Mine's a lever.
There, I'm better.
On my back.
Does that mean you can only cough when you have a friend over?
I mean, I hit the cough button so you guys wouldn't hear it. I was a kind human being.
Since when?
I think he was
that's a good point.
He was so overjoyed by my new nickname that he's like, well, I got to pay that one back right away. And now we're even. Now we're even. So, Masters of Horror, we are traveling through this series, and we are on season 1, episode 10. We are in the closing. We're the back half. We're definitely in the back half, given some of the names we're starting to see in the credits.
Yes.
As masters of horror. Masters.
The last two, we sort of added air quotes on the masters, haven't we?
I think we're definitely on the other side of the hill, heading into the season closer. Front loaded, you could call this.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're getting into. I mean, not only what they've ended up doing for their careers, but also what they had done up to the point that this series debuted. I mean, they got like, I mean, Masters is a stretch.
So this is episode 10, Sick Girl. Jack, tell us about the Masters involved this time.
Yeah, like we say, the Masters. Lucky McKee and Sam Sean Hood, sorry, they were the writers of this. Lucky ended up directing it as well. Sean Hood is probably best known for Cursed, and that genius film that was, and he should have taken an Alan Smithy credit for Halloween Resurrection, the arguably the worst Halloween movie. So I mean, yes, he's worked in in horror, but I don't know that you would call it a master. Again, Lucky McKee is an interesting name. At the time that this came out, he had just had May come out. May was very commercially successful for an independent film, highly reviewed. Um, I thought it would become a real cult classic. It's kind of a cult film now, but in a lot of ways has faded into obscurity. Early role for Angela Bassett and Anna Faris, and it didn't really work for me. So I wasn't sure what to expect with this episode. Lucky has not really gone on to have. At the time, I understand why you would put him in, because after May and the success it had, and the, like I say, the critical acclaim it achieved, um, he looked like the next generation's master of horror. Like he was going to be the guy, or one of the guys, for the next 20-30 years, and it hasn't really worked out that way. I mean, you look at it and there's nothing else really of note. I mean, All Cheerleaders Must Die. I mean, which is a remake of his own film. Um, Maybe you've heard of that. You know what I mean? Like, there's not much there. The Woods came out after this. Was again maybe a minor cult film. So I mean, he's kind of one of those guys who looked like he was going to be a huge deal, and it never materialized, and it still could, I suppose. He's in his late 40s only, but it seems unlikely. But yeah, I mean, at the time he would have been like 2021 at the time he did this episode, and very young when he did May. Um, could have been. I mean, I'm like 17, 18 years old. You know.
The yeah, and these would have been right on top of each other. Like I was just looking at the Woods came out basically the same week. Its premiere was in must have been a German festival or something. Was the 1st of January, and this was the 13th of the same year. So it might have been one of those like Eli Roth kind of things where he was like, "This guy will have broken by the time the episode comes out." Like he's on, like, this guy's on his way up, and then he was on his way, kind of on an angle.
Angle is a good way to put it. And Eli Roth, I think, is a fair comparison. Roth is a bigger name, and has had more success, but also didn't really um, capitalize on the early uh, kind of career trajectory he looked like he was going to be, achieving.
Mhm. Yeah,
It's also nice the producers did take a chance on somebody who wasn't 90 years old.
Well, I love that these people were 90 years old and most of them are still alive. So this is 20 years almost later.
John Carpenter was 90 in the 50s. So.
This is true. This is true. That guy, he's like Alice Cooper in that he looked like he was 70 when he was 20, and he's going to look like he's 70 when he's 120. Yeah.
Who's our other screenwriter credit here?
As I mentioned, Sean Hood. I already talked about him.
All right, I zoned out while you were talking about
him. There's not an awful lot, like I say, for Sean Hood. That, like I say, Halloween Resurrection is the big.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
We do actually have a master who is in the cast rather than in the top name credit in the behind the camera credits. Aaron Brown. Did her face or name ring a bell for either of you guys?
No.
You may know her better as Misty Monday.
Wow.
Yeah, Aaron Brown is her real name and her legitimate movie name. But as Misty Monday, she did a ton of erotic films around the turn of the century, such as I've only seen a couple of her films. My personal favorite is Playmate of the Apes, because it's exactly what it sounds like.
Well, she didn't seem to have any problem with the nudity in the film, so in this episode. So now that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I still don't know her, but
the Mummy Raider, Erotic Vampire in Paris, Lust in the Mummy's Tomb. I think that was the other one I saw.
These two sound like films that I would enjoy.
I think if you have not seen any Misty Monday, they're a quite specific thing, but she does have a cult following and still works in horror films because of that.
Yeah. If you like High 8 in somebody's living room,
a lot of them do look like that. That's true.
She was in something called Lord of the G Strings. I mean, I'm there.
As Dildo Saggins.
Awesome.
It is like the end of that era of like jokey names for parodies, where the story would follow it more, and you'd have a joke name as opposed to like, "This ain't the Golden Girls." They would actually have like a proper joke name.
It was also the end of the era of like porn, not porn thing.
Yeah, like
those movies exist in like this weird like mail-away DVD zone that
they are very much of a time. Yeah.
No, I mean Angela Bettis, who I mentioned, in May, and she's also the star of this one, of this episode. I mean, that's the name that I know, but Misty Monday is, let's put it this way, I have written down the name. Now, Nick, and I'm saying this in all sincerity, good luck. That is not a joke.
Okay.
As you attempt to explain
our
this.
action follows our protagonist, who is a lovelorn entomologist. And she, you know what, gets a little bit of a crush on the girl outside her lab and, asks her out on a date. What follows seems to be some sort of date slash awkward, weird acting contest that goes on for about an hour. And at one point, she receives a bug in the mail that, stings her love interest, and everyone starts acting weird.
That's all accurate, but doesn't even come close to explaining all the stuff that's happening in this episode. Not even.
I learned some new lesbian slang.
I mean,
and any that you can repeat.
Oh no! Brain is being scrubbed as we speak.
This is the single weirdest episode we've had, and that's saying something, because there's been some weirdness.
This is it's and it's an interesting tone too, because it is I think it fits well into the horror comedy.
Oh yes.
But it is interesting to me that because it's bugs, it has a creep factor that a couple of the other horror comedies that we've seen didn't have. Like,
what if Joe's apartment wasn't funny?
I don't know. I thought this was pretty funny at times. I had some good laughs from this episode.
It wasn't laugh out loud funny. It was I'm uncomfortable funny.
No, I had a couple of laugh out loud moments. Honestly, the funniest thing, the whole thing to me, was when her and her lab partner, the main character's lab partner, that guy who I love when they showed him in his apartment and he's on the phone with her and he has like pictures of naked women up behind him. That was like super
that
classic.
Character was hilarious.
Oh, that character was so funny when they're at the Chinese restaurant and she picks out a cockroach and they're both like, oh, that's a cockroach, and they're like examining it and they're like, it's actually from China, and everybody else in the restaurant gets up and leaves, and they're like, that means that this Chinese food restaurant has actual Chinese food. That's awesome, and they just keep eating. That's one of the best jokes of a long time, dude. That was so funny, and I don't know, there was a lot of stuff like that. I laughed out loud several times in this episode.
I think the running bit of how particularly interested he is in her romantic life. I need you to call me and tell me everything before 6:30. That's when I have a shower.
Yes. Awesome line.
That character does not exist in the movies today.
No.
You can't get away with that shit anymore.
I don't think you can have a character like that. I don't think mainstream movies would have a character like that anymore. I mean, this was surprisingly. This was quite progressive for not completely out of the blue, but if you had this episode in a season now, I'd be like, it'd be like, why do they have to be gay? But like, this is 15 years ago, and it was just part of where things were at.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't so common, in the even 15 years ago to have lesbians and especially have them making out on television. Even in a Showtime setting. I mean, it was. I don't know if I'd call it progressive, but it certainly was noteworthy.
Yeah, and not, as in the vernacular of today, not aimed at the male gaze. Like, it's not a lesbian scene like Misty Monday would have done lots of, where its intended effect is it's directed towards the male audience, and this isn't. This, like, it's just a thing that this is like, you know, feels more like real people. Um, and I was reminded of a joke that a friend of mine told me, and who was getting serious with her girlfriend pretty quickly. And she said, "There's an old joke that what does a lesbian bring on a second date? A U-Haul."
Yes, yes, I remember that joke. That's a classic joke. That's a classic, absolute classic.
They're vague as to how long any of this is taking, because the girlfriend gets infected like on the first date, and then like the bug is already missing in the apartment, and then there's like an offhand reference to like like all the nights we spent together kind of thing, and then she moves in, and I'm like, it still feels like it's the same week.
Oh, it feels like about 48 hours. Yeah. But I
Yeah,
mean,
I actually had missed that line, so I thought the whole thing maybe took 4 days.
Yeah, you could be right. Like I think because I think the line is something like the last, like our like few nights together. It's like it does sound like a small amount of time. Um, like she's been over for 3 or 4 nights and then moves in, um, or less. But I guess when you find a girl that is okay with you having a lot of bugs in the house, lock that down.
lock that down. Yes.
I found it a little bit weird that our main character really didn't care about her coworker telling about how much he masturbated towards her sex life. That was
Yeah, I do
like
think
she should have had some sort of reaction other than
that's the part you would not see today. Yeah, for sure. Because it's not just one reference, and it's not thinly veiled. Like he outright tells her that. I like your stories. I think of them again in the shower. There's not hiding it at all. I think the
especially
reaction of
since
the
it's fairly well established that she does not have a lot. She's not very promiscuous.
Well, I think it's that she's so awkward. I mean,
yeah
she's a chick who loves bugs, and I mean, she's
Yeah, that doesn't
even when
mean
she's
you're comfortable with like the guy at the next desk.
um
Really getting off
she has
on the
clearly
fact
has
you're a
no other friends
lesbian.
though. I mean,
that's
what's she
true.
gonna do? Judge them? She has no other friends. She's so awkward. She's so weird. She has no other friends. She has no other success in her love life. I mean, what's she gonna do? Like she's getting judged by.
A wince
hmm
would have been nice.
Well, and she
Again, it's part of the humor of this episode.
I think that and another piece are also of the time where um like we've reached a point where you could have have lesbian characters in a relationship, and it's not um it's not for titillation, um but you've got like that male friend is still there, um now exactly like the same kind of character would be the gay friend, so that he could still say those kinds of things, or similar things.
This is
But
true.
also the landlady's reaction to finding out that the girlfriend is around all the time, um, and seemingly to find out that our main character's lesbian at all. Um, like that's also like that would be the mustache twirling villain told today, and it's just like kind of a witchy woman.
I kind of
At
thought it was
best.
odd that she seemed equally repulsed by the same sex relationship and the bugs. It was like a
Yeah.
two-prong attack.
Yeah, like, and I think it's that kind
Well,
of,
the bugs would bother me. I mean, if they were actually getting around the apartment, as it
yeah.
sounds like they were, I think one of the things that we haven't mentioned is that this. So she gets this bug in the mail that she doesn't recognize. So she
hmm
puts it in her bedroom, and she talks to it, and you see the point of view of the bug. as it's being talked to.
Mm-hmm.
And then the lesbian girlfriend comes into play, Misty Monday, who will now be referred to as Misty Monday. Nothing else would work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she is. I think the thing about this is the bug was supposed to be jealous of the girlfriend.
Mm.
Like that was how it came across to me. Like it
Mm.
escaped and it attacked her and it attacked just her for because it was jealous. But then
Mm.
perhaps who knows, because the final scene, and we would ruin the whole thing to give away the very, very, very end. But let's just say that everybody cuddles up and is fine with each other. you know, it's
Everything does work out for the romance, though, doesn't
it really does, yeah.
it?
We haven't really sold how gross some of these special effects were.
This bug is freaking gross. It looks like a smaller but stickier version of the bugs from Starship Troopers.
Wow, the bug didn't
That's a
bother me
good,
at all.
yeah.
But I couldn't look at her ear for the life of me.
Oh, that was so gross.
Like,
I
if
don't
you
know how
had
you
a
missed
problem
that.
with pus, do not watch this episode.
I don't know how you missed that in your girlfriend that you're just doing it with all the time.
True.
One of her ears is totally infected. Looks like it's about to fall off.
I know how you miss it. You're busy looking at her breasts.
There's also a problem with the size of the bug. It changes
Oh,
drastically throughout this whole
Yeah.
thing. I
it
mean, it's
depends
eating
every 2 minutes on what
koalas
the bug
and
is.
then just scurrying into a little tiny like bug hole.
Oh,
It moves the entire pillow when it hides.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love
It's
that it hides in her pillow and she doesn't feel it when she's sleeping at night.
Yeah,
just
I think that was like, I think she was fully under its spell by that point.
No, but the girlfriend, it's in the main character's pillow.
no, it isn't. No,
Is
it's
it?
in the it's in the pillow that's got all of
Because she
the.
says to her, "It's in your pillow."
Yeah, I think in the sense that like all of the
Oh,
pillows on the
all the
bed are
pillows
her
are in her
pillow. I
pillow.
think
Yeah,
is the. I think that's
I
the context.
gotcha.
But we do see the Misty Monday, who plays a character named Misty. We do see Misty uh, using that pillow at one point. So I think but I think you're right that I think there is another point where the main character does use that pillow, but um, I don't know. Maybe it's like a Princess and the Pea thing. Like if you had a giant bug with an exoskeleton in your pillow, would you notice it? Are you some sort of pampered uh, aristocrat that you would notice that?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Maybe put a bag of chips in your pillow tonight and see if you notice it.
What kind of princess are you? Is the question.
This feels like a BuzzFeed quiz. I think I'm a Jasmine. So what else we got happening in this thing?
Oh Jesus! Everything.
It feels really like it is a quite a packed episode. I mean, this one is approaching the like the feeling of a short movie. Like this could have been a full movie. It wouldn't have taken that. Like a couple of more twists, a couple of more characters, and like this could be a feature.
And then one of the things about this
to me,
is,
it seemed like a side project of May. Like it was the bonus feature on the DVD of May.
It had very strange music. As strange as it is, the music was equally strange. It's the only film that in the series that I've noticed had an original soundtrack available.
Oh, really?
In Masters of Horror that I've seen, yeah, it had the original soundtrack was available for purchase.
Wow, that's crazy.
Again, just kind of crazy, but you know, um, on what do you call it? On message, I think. that they would put out the soundtrack for this, being that it was a lot of original music, and it was original music. Like it was strange music again.
It is also the same composer as May.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Lucky McKee didn't know a lot of people yet in the industry.
But bringing someone along with him makes sense. Yeah.
Nothing in this felt like it was shot head on. I mean, even the restaurant, which was obviously a real world location, felt odd.
I
Like they
presume that
put
the
food,
restaurant is
they
part
had
of
food on
Canada
the
Spotting.
table, but it didn't look like anyone could actually eat it.
Well, they're at a table that's meant for like 6 people, which is also hilarious. Like they're in a booth that's really meant for like at least 6 people, and they're on the opposite ends of the table. It's they start reaching their hands toward each other, and they have to go to a close up, because I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have been able to reach each other on the real table. They would have had to lean so far across the table. Basically climb
let's
on
do
it.
the Canada Spotting. Let's get it out of the way here.
This is the first time that I've stumbled in my Canada spotting. There are so few actual locations. There's not a lot of locations to start with. Several of them do look like existing practical sets, such as the the lab, the kind of lobby area where she first meets Misty. And
I think we might have seen that lab earlier in the season.
Yeah, it's a lab in that it looks like a lab. Like it's got, you put enough beakers in the back of any room, and it's gonna. I've seen so many movies where like, well, there's a microscope and there's a bunch of beakers, and there's there's an eye wash station. Yeah, that's a lab. It has everything a lab has, right? If you've never been in a lab, it looks exactly like one. It does actually look like a practical set, though.
It
It's
might
got
actually
enough
be
stuff on the walls.
Finally,
Yeah.
not one they built, an existing set.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the amount of things the amount of extra stuff that's in the room, it's probably probably addressed.
I don't know that we've gotten how weird this thing was across yet. Like I don't know that we can get across how weird this thing is.
I think like her awkwardness is so much of a part of it.
It's like it was like pre Audrey Plaza. Like Audrey Plaza owes her career to these performances.
I don't think she's awkward in The White Lotus, but you're right. In Community, she certainly was awkward and mean. Awkward and mean. I think this girl's more awkward, but
I've seen her do interviews, and she's pretty. She's pretty awkward in those too.
This is true. This is true. She just doesn't care. She obviously just doesn't care is the thing.
Yeah. Go into a bit more of that, Jack. I think that there's stuff to mine there.
Well, it's just like I say, the music, the cinematography, the acting, the characters, the humor, like all of it is so unusual that you can't really, like, I'm not saying it's unwatchable because of this, but it is really like it's just so damn different. You can't, there's no other way to put it. I don't know how to
out of all the episodes we've watched, I think this one had the most unique flair to it.
Tonally and certainly like just the relationship between the characters is very different than this. Would if this had been a male-female relationship, it would have been very different. Because I mean, one, they realistically they're not going to move in together that fast. That just doesn't feel like I'm not saying it can't happen, but
I mean,
But
I think the fact that they're both awkward, they're both strange,
yeah, I'm
means
now
that they
trying
would
to
move in together that quickly.
I'm trying to
Because
imagine that. So gender swap some of these roles. It's a male guy that works in the lab. He's very geeky. He's got a female friend, and she talks about, "Hey, you should have called me before 6:30. That's when I have my shower, and I want to hear the story about your date."
but I think the idea that they're both so strange,
Yeah,
it makes the idea of them moving in together much more believable.
yeah. It's like when you find your person. Like that's like as soon as she says that she is really interested in bugs, like that's the point where like the stars have aligned. Um, I think the implication is that they've spent like every minute between those two scenes together. Um, that I don't think that Misty leaves the apartment again, besides to get her stuff. She doesn't appear to have a job, so
She
maybe
definitely doesn't
that
have a job.
that would also have an effect on the speed of the move in. I don't necessarily have any visible means of
Like, I have
support.
no idea where she was staying before this. She wasn't staying with her parents. Maybe just her mother.
Who was a
Maybe,
hippie that they
yeah.
mentioned several
Was a hippie,
times.
Oh,
yeah.
that's right. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. So I have no
Although
idea.
I do think the scene with let's look for the bug and do the cute like we're falling in love thing worked. I like that little
That was
scene there.
That
That was
was
adorable.
cute.
Yeah.
another very odd scene, though. I mean, you
It was
literally see them looking
totally
for the
odd.
bug. They're on their knees, and their hands and knees,
they're
crawling around the apartment looking for this bug.
they're they're shining a flashlight into a
Yes.
already well lit corner that's clearly empty. It is a very romantic comedy scene, placed in the middle of this. There is a lot of just the romantic comedy angle of this is so strong. Um, and it does have those um, she's just the kinds of things you would put into a lighter movie, like falling asleep. You go to make a phone call and come back, and your date's asleep on the couch, and like those kinds of bits of just the long meet cute, basically. You did buy me enough time there, Jack, to successfully do a Canada spotting.
Beautiful, beautiful.
There was a building that I've been to Vancouver, so sometimes notable pieces of architecture are hidden in my head somewhere. The outside of the university is actually the exterior of the Vancouver Art Gallery, which is in downtown Vancouver and has marble columns, and it's quite an impressive looking building.
Oh, okay.
And it has this giant set of stairs in front of it, which you do see in the establishing shot of her our main character in the courtyard outside. It is actually a museum she works at, which I didn't connect. She must work in collections or something, because even the sign outside, which is fake, is still a museum.
Really, I thought it was it's like I don't know, a university, because
that was the vibe.
her father being a professor.
Yeah, maybe it's just one of those, maybe the implication is one of those crossover things, but her father. Well, yeah.
Her father, by the way, is an
we
a-hole.
probably have to give away something. Something to keep talking. Yeah.
Her father's an a-hole. I think we can just put it that way.
There's a lot of
Misty's father's an a-hole. He doesn't like the fact that his daughter is, because his daughter. Yeah, he's doesn't like he's uncomfortable with who his daughter is obsessed with. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, she makes a reference early on that her father doesn't approve of what at the time would have been called her lifestyle choice.
Yes, yes, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and I think again that sets this in particular time, because now those characters are definitely the bad guys, and it's not like they're presented as good guys, but they are presented as antagonists. And now they're full on bad guys when they have that kind of like you can't redeem a character that's like that now.
No, you wouldn't even try.
No, they're just. I mean, it's like every few years we get a different bad guy in action movies. It was Russians for a long time, and then it was Arabs, and then it was and then it was a different kind of Arab, and then it was drug dealers, and then it was Arabs again.
I can't wait until it's safe to do Nazis again.
Well, we do have a new Indiana Jones coming out, and you know my cardinal rule of action movies with Nazis in them: nobody cares if you kill a Nazi. You can do as many as you like and still have a PG-13. All right, so this one would put this strong in the recommend category for the
I think
episodes.
I think so. I mean, I did enjoy the episode, but the other thing is, I mean, if you're listening to Cult Film Showdown, you're into cult films. You're obviously into the odd or the unusual. You're not going to find much more odd and unusual than this.
It is. It does feel like where independent film was in the 90s, where like true indie film was in the 90s, like just the tone of it and the kind of mix of silly comedy, regular comedy, and like relationship comedy, and like super creepy thing happening to move things along, like a truly gross MacGuffin. Man, that bug creeped me out. Again, as Nick has mentioned, the sound of that bug, like the sound design, the sounds that bug has are so creepy. That's just raises the level. I was quite triggered. I wasn't. It was just it's just gross. I think I was more triggered by remembering how intense Starship Troopers was more than I was about the bugs itself.
Really, I thought the pus would have creeped you out more than because anytime pus has a sound effect that accompanies, that's a lot of pus.
A weeping pus, which is just that was the name of my college band, Weeping Pus.
Weeping Pus.
Yeah, I think the first time when she like has a scratch in her ear and she's got this like goo on it when she brings her hand down. That stuff was way creepier than having a centipede in a glass case.
She should have panicked way more in that scene.
She just seems fine with everything. She only really gets upset like once.
I did kind of like they had sort of an animated sequence in there, although it was bug rape.
It was, wasn't it? Now that you mention it, this series has not been as rapey as most of the cult films that we watch.
That's true.
If you're gonna have a rapiness, it would be in this episode.
Yeah, it's
and it would have to be animated.
I'm gonna have a fun time putting the tags on the YouTube channel for this episode.
Yes.
All right. Speaking of, the Cult Film Showdown has a YouTube channel where we've been plugging these episodes. We're also on every podcast app you can think of, and we are supported by WeTalkPodcast.com. They are the home of the Octagon, and you can find every previous episode where we're probably closing on 200 now. We did. With all these bonus episodes and a long stretch of our search for the ultimate B movie, we're getting up there. We Talk Podcasts is on Facebook and they are on Twitter. You can keep up with everything that's coming from the network. Cult Film Showdown is also on Instagram and on Patreon. On Patreon, you can support our search for the ultimate B movie and our wander through the masters of horror, where we found, let's call this guy a master that should have been. And we will be back next time with episode 11 of season 1, entitled Pick Me Up. And until then, Nick, Jack, and I will be mastering our horror and searching for Misty Monday movies.
Yes. Oh, I'm. When I search for Misty Monday movie, better believe I'm mastering my horror.
Playmate of the Apes. Start there.
Oh,
it is
hey,
such a ride. It is,
smoothest, best plugs you've ever done. By the way, tremendous.